Did you know that I actually joined the British military after just one conversation and no research? Now, that decision shaped my entire life. If you've ever been afraid to start something because it feels messy or unprepared, then this video is for you. So back in 2007, which is actually 18 years ago, which makes me feel much older than I actually feel in my own mind and body, I made a short, sharp decision one evening. I was actually working as a doorman. I was doing door work or security work, whatever you want to call it, over here in the UK. And as I was looking out from the bar that I was responsible for, I just thought, I need to be doing something more with my life. This is not where I should be right now. And ultimately, I felt out of place. I feel like I wasn't utilising the brain capacity or the intelligence that I had somewhere, whether that was on the surface or buried deep down. So when I got home quite late from that particular job, I actually went, onto my laptop and I started Googling. What could I do, with my life? Now, for a good few years, before I was actually doing this door work, I'd actually worked inside of the family business. And that's what gave me a lot of the foundation for my IT skills, because the family business, we built computers, we repaired them, and then we sold a lot of paraphernalia that goes with, printers. So it's like ink, paper, all the bits and bobs that you can imagine. And obviously back in sort of the early 2000s, people were burning a lot of CDs, a lot of DVDs, things of this nature. So when I was Googling for what I could use my skill set for, the first 2 or 3 search results that came up were the British military. So I quickly looked at, some of the roles that they had on offer, and I figured out actually it's just a short drive into the city for me to go and actually speak to somebody and kind of feel out the situation. So that's exactly what I did. The next day, literally a few hours after waking up from doing this, long night shift as a security person, I drove to the city and I walked into what's called an AFCO, so an Armed Forces Careers Office. And as I looked across the desks, there were, all the different services. Now, the only person that actually looked up and gave me a nod and a smile was actually the Royal Air Force, careers officer. So I just went straight over because I didn't know. I'd never been into an Armed Forces Careers Office before. I had no intention of what was going to happen. I was just going for a basic chit chat. Anyway, after a very, very short conversation, I'm talking 10 minutes maximum, I left with a leaflet and I actually said, yeah, I want to sign up. Where do I put my details? Needless to say, I think he was perhaps a sergeant or a staff sergeant. He was quite shocked and a little bit taken aback that this is the first time I've ever spoken to somebody, and I decided to just take his word that this was the career path that I was going to follow. But honestly, I can't, amplify this enough. Being able to just go from deciding this is not what I want from my life to this is the exact path I'm going to follow, and I'm excited and I'm pumped and I'm all in, was life-changing for me. Even once I left the military, I remained in this seat of being able to decide this is the thing that I want to do, and then take very fast, immediate action to get me on that path. So my wife and I, Elaine, that's what we've done with every business that we've started, there on out, is, it might have taken us a little bit longer than 10 minutes to maybe research a business idea, but I'm talking a few hours later, we'd decided this is where we would get our stock from, this is how it was going to be delivered, this was the website that we were going to have made up, and we were trading within inside a week. And not only that, and I don't claim to be, a multi-millionaire or, any sort of like secret billionaire or anything like that. Absolutely not. But every single business that we've started always went along the same lines, very much what people would call on a whim, but every single one has seen financial success. So why do people struggle to start? That's a good question. That's a good place to, begin with this exploration, in my opinion. I appreciate not everybody, has had no one has the same experiences. Everyone's got a different perspective on life, and everybody's brought up in such drastically different ways, different environments, very different parents, ways of doing things, ways of thinking, thought process, you name it. So I feel quite fortunate that, I was brought up in an environment of where speed was of the essence, like getting things done and going from thought to action very quickly was highly valued. So when I was sat with this, when I was thinking about, what matters to me and something that I could maybe contribute, back to other people that want to be more in that seat of taking action, I sort of asked myself, why do people struggle to start? Why do people stay in the same place and stagnate, for such a long time, whilst they look around and see other people, taking so much action and achieving the things that maybe they've only dreamt about? I think every time I've thought about this and I've made notes around it, it was due to fear. They were just absolutely full of fear. And I think fear is such a sobering fact and reality, for a lot of people. We still get afraid. We're still full of fear, when we're trying new things and we're moving at speed. And even, when we're testing, new businesses, and we have tested them over years, it's not that we weren't, lacking fear or didn't have any fear inside of us. But I'll get to the reason, why we ultimately took action. But, you don't want to, people that are full of fear, let me just take a drink. So we've worked with a lot of people over the years. We've got a coaching and consulting business. And, I spend the majority of my days listening to people, listening very closely to the things that stop them from taking action and, create some sort of break in their thinking and the forces that they want to travel forwards with. And people share a few things. One of the things is they're afraid of, looking bad in front of other people. That's definitely up there on the sort of the top 3 list. The other one is just afraid of failing. Like if I fail, then maybe there's a bunch of risk, that sits behind that. And then if I fail, I look bad in front of others. And then I think the third one that sits up on the top list is the financial risk, behind starting something and it not going in the direction or achieving the thing that you lay out on paper. And for some, if you had like an outlier on that list, it would definitely be, a fear of the unknown, not knowing what the path that you're about to tread on has in store for you. Is it slippy? Is it hot? You have no idea what's underfoot. But the hard and drastic truth around this is no matter how much planning you do, eventually you have to start. It's inevitable. And you've probably seen this in other videos, or you've read it in personal development books or business books, but it's so true. You either take the sting and the fear that you've got right now around doing something, or you let that just build up, and create a bigger sting down the line. And the sting won't be on getting started if you wait. The sting will be sat inside of the regret of not starting sooner. Everybody always regrets not starting sooner on something when they've had an idea or a breakthrough or some big idea, that they wanted to take action on. And there's a real power, when you combine speed and action together. It's a very potent mixture. And there's a saying that I try to live by. And I honestly can't remember where I read it. This isn't, one of mine, but it's speed attracts money. Speed attracts money. Now think about that for a second. Why does speed attract money? Well, whilst everyone else is still thinking about things and making all these intricate plans, you're just out there doing the thing. You're testing it. You're able to reiterate on things that don't work. No matter how well you plan stuff, you're still going to make mistakes, and you're going to have to reiterate and take that back down to, foundational business actions anyway. For me personally, jumping out of the plane has allowed me to gain ground while others are still deciding whether to even approach the door. That speed creates opportunities that others miss. That's a fact. I also recognize, even if you get into the seat now of living and dying by, speed attracts money, there's a muscular element to this. Like Like when you start certain habits, perhaps, there's muscle that sits behind those habits. If you've never done a particular habit before, then the muscle is very weak. That's why it takes a certain amount of time for that habit to bed in and not just be a habit, but just be an intrinsic part of who you are. So with taking action, the more you use that muscle, the stronger it becomes. And I feel like, my action taking muscle is quite strong just from doing the thing and not thinking about doing the thing or planning around doing the thing. And by taking the action, there's also then a degree of confidence and self-trust that's built. And when you start to build muscle around those two things combined with taking action, again, you've got a very potent mixture. And maybe now you're even thinking, it's easy for you to see, you've maybe been doing this for a long time, but there's certainly some things that you've been doing a lot longer than I have, where the tables could turn. So think about it this way instead. Take your own map of things that have worked out exactly how you wanted them to, or if not exactly perfect, as close as damn it, of where you didn't create a plan. There was no detailed and excruciating process to go through in order to just start the thing. And you know what? You're still here now watching this video. The chances are it came down to self-trust. It came down to just paying a little bit back into that internal system that cheers you on. If you're sitting on an idea or a dream, just remember this. It's not about having the perfect plan. It's about having the courage to just start. Trust yourself. Jump out of the plane. Figure it out on the way down. You'll be amazed at how much ground you can actually cover while others are still stood at the door thinking about jumping.